I have many opportunities to practice in my shop with all the ladies of the ton. 1 or 2 have even discussed you, my lord. The marriage mart has opened and you are eligible. No?" He stepped deeper into the room, removing his coat and draping it over a chair. His cravat came next, the simple knot sliding free and the silk slipping between his fingers to be discarded there also.
"No, I am not eligible. There will be no debutantes, no marriage-minded mammas, no betrothals to any of those simpering chits. I have removed myself from the marriage mart permanently."
She smiled, though her heart sang in relief. It hadn't been jealousy that prompted her to ask, but self-protection. A time would come when he would need a wife, and while she was his mistress, she would not be the sort to share. At that point, she would have to let him go. It pained her to even think it. "That is good to hear. I would hate to think of you rushing from my bed to your wife's." He unbuttoned his waistcoat and slipped it off, tossing it aside so carelessly that it landed in a crumpled heap on the floor. "I have a light supper for us," she said.
"Later, much later. There are other needs to be met first,"
he replied, a slight growl to his voice. Shivering slightly in response, Sabine rose to her feet. "I've missed you." There was no hint of the fake French accent. Some things, when said, should not be tainted with artifice.
"And I've missed you,"
he said.
"You do not have to be Madame de Roussard. You could retire quite comfortably from your profession."
"And do what?"
she asked, picking up her hairbrush and tackling the snarls in her hair. It was the opportunity he'd been waiting for. Being a countess, I'm told, keeps one very busy. The hairbrush clattered to the floor. She stood there, blinking at him for a moment before turning away, her movements jerky with anger and shock.
"You've gone entirely mad. What a horrid thing to jest about."
Gray sat up in bed, his gaze locked on her. "It isn't a jest, Sabine. I've a ring in my coat pocket topped with a sapphire the size of a robin's egg. I'd put it on your finger today if you'd let me," he said.
"Is this how you propose? Really?"
She said it offhandedly, but her voice trembled just a bit, just enough to reveal how deeply upset she was over it all. "No," he answered. "It isn't a proposal. This is how I tell you that I want to marry you. I want nothing more than to wake up every morning for the rest of our lives with you by my side, but I will not ask until I know that you are free to say yes or no of your own accord. I know you well enough to know that sometimes you need to mull an idea over for a time before being asked to make a decision."
"There is no decision, Gray. I cannot marry you,"
she replied. Cannot or will not. It was an important distinction for him. Silence descended as she carefully considered how to respond. At last, she offered,
"Cannot."
"Because of our difference in stations, or because of something in your very secret past?" She turned back to him then, facing him. There were unshed tears in her eyes, hovering on her dark lashes.
"Both, really. If I had to weigh them, I would say it is the latter more than the former which impacts my stance on the matter.